Did you ever wonder what happens behind the scenes when you log into an application? Tokens are everywhere in authentication, but not all tokens are the same. In this video, we'll break down the key differences between JSON Web Tokens and Opaque Tokens. We'll explain how they relate to authorization and when to use each one of them. What are tokens? What do we mean when we say a token? It's a key that proves your identity, meaning who you really claim to be, and grants you access to resources that otherwise would be protected. When you log into an application, the authentication server issues you with a token, which your application can actually use instead of repeatedly asking you to provide your password. Now, tokens are essential for modern web security, and they allow services to verify users without re-authenticating them on every single request. JSON Web Tokens are what we call a self-contained token. That means that all the information required for authentication and authorization is actually stored within the token itself as metadata. They are structured as a compact JSON object, and that data inside it is encoded as base 64. Now, JSON Web Tokens have a structure, and that structure is made up of three components. First of all, we have the header, which specifies the type of token and the hashing algorithm that was used. Then we have the payload, which contains claims, things like user ID, roles, permissions, the expiration time, etc. And finally, we have the signature. That signature is used to verify the token's integrity and authenticity. Now, there's many examples where JSON Web Tokens are used. They're ideal for APIs, microservices, single sign-on, and distributed systems where sessionless authentication is needed. Now, let's move on to opaque tokens to understand what they really are and how they actually differ from JSON Web Tokens. Now, opaque tokens function like reference IDs that are stored on the server. Unlike JSON Web Tokens, they do not contain any readable user data within the token itself. This means in order to validate an opaque token, the application itself must query the authentication server to retrieve any of the user details and permissions that come with that opaque token. Now, examples where this might be used are in traditional web applications, OAuth 2.0 authentication, and cases where session revocation is required. Now, how does a tool like Permit actually fit into this picture of working with JSON Web Tokens or opaque tokens, or in general, the unique identities that you can get from those tokens? Permit allows you to leverage the unique identities from those tokens to enforce the fine-grained permissions that you want to apply to specific identity dynamically. What does that mean? Well, by extracting the unique user identity from the token, Permit ensures that the authenticated user is granted the right permissions to the specific resources that would otherwise be restricted. And Permit does that based on understanding the predefined policies that you have created, and therefore reducing the complexity of managing things like role-based access control, attribute-based access control, relationship-based access control, and policy-based access control. If you want to know a little bit more about the comparison of all these policy models, you can click here or here. So to conclude, now that you've watched this video, you're a master of JSON Web Tokens and opaque tokens, and you know the exact differences and when to use them. Both tokens have their use cases, and the choice really depends on the requirements of the application that you're writing. Security, scalability, and revocation should most definitely guide your decision. Now, let me know what type of tokens you use in your application. And as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to know when we post a new video. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.